Good morning. Um, Happy Wednesday. uh, Good morning, Ruth and Susan and Dora. Um, I was up so late last night. I can't remember the last time I was up that late. Um, Trying to get a project done. So I'm trying to learn how to make candy. Um, I don't know if you're from this area or from Pennsylvania, around Philadelphia area, or even into like Pennsylvania Dutch country, you will remember Clear Toy Candy, um, which was something I don't really remember it so much from Christmas, but Easter. We always had it around Easter. And I thought that would be a fun thing to learn how to make. And because I found some molds. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to try it. Um, it's kind of tricky. There's a little bit to it. And my first batch that I made a couple of days ago all melted together when I put it in the bag. I don't know what happened. Something weird. And but the batch I made last night, I did a few different things and it turned out better. I hope. I haven't looked at it this morning because I put it in the garage so it would be cold-ish or cooler. Um, and We'll see. We'll see what it looks like today. Hopefully good. I feel bad though because I know I mailed I mailed some of the candy out already. I'm gonna have to send them an email and be like, just throw that out. I'm gonna send you some new one that's better. Um, so that's maybe and what I found very interesting about this process is that it um, it keeps changing, right? Even after you've set it, taken it out of the molds, and you think it's done, it's actually more things are happening, right? It's still working away, even when it's cold, even when, um, and my daughter was talking to me about this. So uh, she was a cook and went to culinary school, so she has some actual knowledge about this stuff, and she was telling me about working with sugar and these different things, and she was the one that said, "Hey, be careful because it keeps changing, and if you don't do it right, it shows up later. It might look good out of the mold, but in a day or so, something's bad's gonna happen. It's gonna start melting, or it's gonna get cloudy, or something." Which I thought was very interesting. Um, so that's maybe a good thing to think about for everything, right, in your life. We tend to, I think that we finish things and we're done. Um, and you can just, as long as you get done, that's all that matters, right? Um, and then move on to the next thing. We forget that things follow us, right? And frequently, what we thought we finished one day uh, can come back to haunt us the next or the day after that. Um, that's especially true, I think, when we're dealing with people and our relationships. It's easy sometimes to um, take the shortcut, right? Um, Go, you know, just do it. Just do whatever you need to do to get through it. Um, or to just do something for someone. So my oldest is trying to buy a car, his first new car. So going through all the shenanigans on that, um, it's very tempting, right? My husband he loves to buy cars. He's like Mr. I know how to buy a car guy, and I couldn't care less about that. So he does all that stuff, and um, he's got his whole system for it. Uh, but again, like it's tempting to just take over and do these things and be done. Um, but what's the result of that? Yeah, the first result is that you get it done, but what's the result down the line? Um, the result could be that the person that you're helping doesn't understand how to do it for themselves. That's not a good result. Um, and then the result after that maybe is that that person feels like they can't do things like that for themselves, um, because they weren't really given the opportunity to learn. So um, everything that we do has consequences. Um, we need to try to do the right thing the first time around and make sure that it sticks, right? Sometimes what we like to think of as the good thing is just the thing that gets it finished, but it doesn't stay, right? It's like when you do make some kind of shortcut or something. Um, I was thinking about this a lot when I was working on my porch. My other, life lesson thing here. And I think that 50% of the porch, I mean, there was a lot of cutting and heavy lifting, but I would say 50% of my time was spent in preparation, prepping the wood and painting the wood. So priming everything, putting primer and painting, getting all that done, then putting the wood up and then painting it again. Um, it was really time consuming. And um, there were a lot of times I was like, oh, I could just put this up. Do I really need a primer? I have this paint that says it's a primer and paint. It's probably good enough, right? And then I thought, okay, do you want to be doing this again in 6 months, in a month, next year? No, I don't. I want to do it right now. And that means, right, take your time, go slow, do all the steps that you know you need to do. Um, don't worry about if it takes a little more time. Um, that's that's worth it, right? The time you put in now is time that you won't have to do later. And I will tell you, um, from working on an old house, things are always easier to be done fresh than to try to repair something that's broken or not working properly. Um, so your first crack at things should be your best. It doesn't mean you can't fix it if it's broken, but it's going to take a little more work. So it makes sense to try to do it right the first time. And it carries through for people too, right? Um, it's harder to repair a break or a problem in a relationship than it is to uh, just keep going, right? If you've ever been in long-term relationships, you know that you can get these sort of sore spots, right? And or blind spots where um, it's an issue that maybe you've never been able to resolve, and you get some resentments that build up around that. Um, better that you take those situations head on and deal with them. Don't just push them aside and figure that if you don't see them out of sight, out of mind, well, that's not necessarily true, right? You stick all that candy in a bag and wrap it up tight, set it aside, and then you go back and see that it's all squashed together and nothing is working right. Um, it's like throwing everything in your room in the closet to clean it. It works for like 5 minutes until you need something from the closet, or the closet door opens and then everything is a disaster again. So deal with things as they come. Try to do things the right way the first time. Don't be tempted to do a lot of shortcuts. They rarely turn out to be an actual shortcut. um, and we know this, right? Deep down, we know this. But it's following this, follow your heart, follow um, your sense of what is the right thing to do, rather than your mind is going to tell you, just do it. It's fine. Just, you'll be fine. Just keep going, and don't don't look back. Don't fix that thing. Just you know, it, it's a it's we do it. We do it. We all do it, right? But there are good reasons not to. Um, and I remember, that saying, right? Trust your, listen to your heart and not your head. Um, and I always thought when I heard that, like as a kid or whatever, that it was dumb. Like that's a really dumb thing to say. Why would you listen to your heart instead of your head? Because your head is smart, right? Your head is where you reason things out, where you come up with you know, a rational decision. Whereas your heart is this emotional place where um, you just are influenced by everything around. And I think, as a culture, we that's the impression we give, right? People that are um, people are either one or the other, right? You're either sort of very intellectual, and very like cerebral. You think everything and you're very logical and organized. Or if you're not, you're very emotional, very flighty and kind of crazy, and you don't, that's those are our sort of stereotypical ways to be. But in truth, it's actually the opposite, right? Um, when we are really connected to ourself, we really are connected to the source of knowledge. Um, when we live up here, we create our own, reality, our own interpretation of things that can be very, very much in error. We can see things in certain ways that seem like a really good decision, um, that turn out very, very poorly for us because we never checked within. We never really checked our gut feeling. You know, um, they talk about this a lot with women, right? Women a lot do this, right? We don't trust that gut feeling that we have, and to our detriment, right? In relationships, in situations that we are in, um, we are very conditioned to accept and to doubt ourselves, to give everyone else the benefit of the doubt, but not us, right? So they talk about, women that get into dangerous situations, or, they are in a dangerous situation. Frequently they say, I had that feeling. I had a feeling, but I said, I'm being ridiculous. I'm overreacting. Um, I you talk yourself out of it. When in truth, you should have just left. You should have just got in the car and go. You should have just gotten yourself out of that situation. Your body was saying, hey, this is not good for you. Stop. But we talk ourselves out of it. So, yeah, listen to your heart. Listen to what your body is telling you. Um, because your mind is prone to other influences, right? Your body and your heart have nothing but your own best um, your own best interests at heart, and that's what we want to keep going with. Um, so don't, it's I think what's confusing for us is that we don't have the sense of um, the control, right? That you need again to differentiate between the self and the emotions, right? So we've talked about this before, this idea that the emotions are not us. Um, they are a feeling that we generate, that can be generated from us. But that's not the self, right? The self is, and the heart of you is deep within. Um, and by accessing that, by being in communication with that, we get that highest intelligence. We have that, um, really, that we tap into that knowledge of everything in the world. Even if we're not really aware of it, it's there. Um, and it can help us. So, uh, listen, right? It won't steer you wrong. And we talk about this with yoga a lot, this idea that um, the ultimate way of action is this sort of constant listening to the self, and it will guide you where you are meant to go, what you should be doing, what's your next step. So when you're not sure what that might be, what that should be, check within. Get some suggestions, get some knowledge. Um, you don't have to follow it always, right? It may not be practical, right? You may have this deep yearning to do something which you simply can't do at this moment, right? Maybe you don't have the finances, maybe you don't have the time, maybe there's a global pandemic on and you can't go places that you need to go to. It's okay. um, you can do it in the future. You can plan for it. Um, Listening to the self doesn't mean throwing all of your sensible uh, concerns out the window, right? Because at the base, we need to make sure that we are supported and that we have the things that we need to survive. Um, so knowledge of this does not mean you have to run off and do it, but maybe you can plan for it. Maybe you can um, see where you're going to be ending up, um, but maybe not today. So um, let's do a little asana. We're getting closer and closer to Christmas. I think I am not going to have class on Christmas because, although I don't, my kids will not be up, but who knows? Someone might be up. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna have class, but I'll have class Thursday, and we'll have class after because, why not? We got to keep going, right? So sitting up tall. Notice how your body is today. I notice I did not get a lot of sleep, so I notice that things that normally get rest and feel better in the morning don't feel so good today. So my knee and my shoulder, I've got this crisscross thing going on. So we'll see what we're going to do today. Keep breathing and then hang the head down. Moving around, make a big circle. So you may have noticed this, or you may already know this about your body, but typically, and then reverse direction. Typically, when you have like an injury or kind of an old area, um, where there is some weakness or some um, instability, right? You'll have an alternating place as well. So it'll move from one place to the other. So when one thing is bothering you, the other place is usually pretty good. Um, and you'll see how this can be, right? Because when you have something that's not in the right place, it's putting strain on a lot of other parts of the body. Um, and you're compensating for that, right? You're limping, or you're using your body in a different way to make up for that imbalance. And then that, of course, puts strain on the other places in the body too. So you can kind of watch sometimes how this thing will sort of move through the body. And again, like, there are times that you simply can't solve these issues. My dad, for instance, had one leg which was about 2 inches longer than the other, which is just randomly, that's how he was born and lived. So he had build up heel on one side, and I mean, but he always had some issues and instabilities because of that. So it could be something, that you're born with, something genetic that you've got to deal with, or it could just be an injury that is constantly kind of getting flared up and never really gets resolved. Um, some things do get resolved, some things don't. Some things we just have to live with. And, you know, that's what we do, right? We find ways to live with what we have, right? Make the most of what we got. And as you get older, right, that becomes very clear, right? That you have sometimes things that will be with you for long term. They change sometimes, and they'll move to different parts of the body, but that source of instability is often continuous. So we work around it, we work with it as much as we can, and trying to minimize it. But this knowledge of what your particular um, instabilities are is very helpful. It keeps us safer, and it keeps us able to move and do these things in a way that is sustainable, and we're not constantly, what we don't want is to work really, really hard, get injured, and then be out of, commission for a week or two. Working less so that you can work longer is actually a much more sensible course of action. Of course, we're not always sensible, are we? Let's bring the arms wide. Take a deep breath and bring the hands together. Inhale, arms wide, and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Release the fingers, lift the hands, gaze up, and then arms down by your side. So one of the things I find interesting, inhale, lift, is that doing these exercises, similar movements, arms back down, and another one up. Over the course of time, you really see what's happening in the body, what's changing. From doing all of the work with this right arm and the painting and everything, something moved, right? I had something moving in here. And I had built up a lot of muscle, but I could feel that something had moved, something had kind of come out of place in here. But I just keep going, keep movement in it. And then one day it moved back. And there you go. So doing these same movements again and again, you'll notice when something isn't right. You're like, oh yeah, this is definitely. So you just keep moving, keep going with it, and see how that resolves itself. Because it will, one way or another. Things are going to move around. They always do. Arms out in front. I think it is amazing that your body, things in your body are changing all the time. Arms behind you, bring the shoulders together, gaze up. And then back to your seat. When I was a teenager, well, yeah, like a young teenager, I had a gap between my teeth, a fairly substantial gap, and I was very self-conscious about it, and I hated it, and um, I wanted to get braces so they would fit, so it would fix that and everything. And thank God, I had old school dentist, and he said, "Well, your teeth look fine. There's plenty of room in there. Uh, what do you want braces for?" And I said, I don't like that gap between my teeth. And he said, I bet when you grow up, it's gonna move. And if it doesn't, I could put braces on, but it might move again. Your teeth are always moving too. Everything in your body is moving. And that was amazing. Like that blew me away, that idea that the body is in motion, that we're growing and we're changing, and nothing is for certain. So, you want to hold that moment in time even in your body, but it won't allow you to do that. You just can't. So I didn't get braces, but my teeth did move, and now I have actually very, very few spaces between my teeth. So there you go. Deep breath in, fold forward. Come on back up. Let's bring the legs wide. Sitting up tall. Deep breath, and then leaning forward. You can bring the hands down onto the legs or out in front. And then back up. Let's bring feet about, width of the mat or so. And we're going to point and flex the feet. Rotating. One way and then the other. Bend the right knee. You can hug it in a little. Sit up tall. And then lower the knee out to the side. We're going to
Bring the arms overhead, turn so we're facing the left leg, and fold. Back up, switch. So your leg is out. Let's hug that knee in first. And then lowering out to the side. Take a deep breath and fold. Back up. Both legs out in front. Deep breath, fold forward. My neighbor's dog. I imagine you can hear it too. Back up. Bend the knees again, soles of the feet together. Sitting up tall. Deep breath and fold. Back up. Let's hook a hold of the toes or just grab the tops of the feet. Balancing here. And then some extension. Halfway or full extension. And feet back down to the mat. You can lower down or rock back. Resting on your back. Take a few breaths. The hands up overhead. Extend the legs. And we're going to do banana asana. Right? So walking the hands a little over to the right and the feet as well. Making a little curve shape of banana or maybe like a little crescent moon. Back to center and then moving to the left. It doesn't have to be a big movement. Just want to feel some stretch along that side body. And then back to center. 5-pointed star. So arms out to a T and feet a little wider on the mat. And then bring everything back to center. 5-pointed star feels good. Like that feels like you could just fall asleep there maybe. or maybe I could today. Bring that right ankle on top of the left knee. Maybe staying here. That's where you're at today. Or you could bring that left thigh in closer and breathe. And feet back down to the mat. Switch your sides. And now right leg is coming in. Both feet back down to the mat. Take a few breaths. And then we're going to do a regular bridge and then a supported bridge. So heels back, close to the body. Hands by your side, lifting up. You can hold here and breathe. And lower down. find a block or whatever support you want to use. And working on supported bridge. Relaxing, resting the body down on the mat, on the block. And you can move around if you feel like it. That seems like something that you need today. And we will set the feet back down. Lifting up, remove your block. Soles of the feet together, knees apart. You bring the hands down on the belly. Keep breathing. Ease to center. Let's hug them into the chest. You can move around a little. And then making some big circles with the knees. One way and then the other. Keep the knees into the chest. Goalpost arms or arms to a T. Take a breath, and then we're lowering the knees over to the right. Back to center and moving over to the left. Then back up. Extend the legs. Arms by your side. And when you're ready, lowering. I'm too close here, but that's all right. And just resting on the mat. Keep breathing, keep focused on the body and the sensations of resting on the mat, keeping that relaxed awareness. So when we're communicating with the self, it can be, it can take a lot of forms, right? It may be a feeling that you're getting, a very strong feeling. You That may be sort of what we call intuition, when you have a very intense sensation, or I hesitate to say opinion because it really isn't an opinion. It's much deeper than that. Um, Oftentimes, what we would consider a first impression is often our intuition talking to us. So, and I'm sure you've had experiences where um, you will meet someone and take an instant like to them. Something about them will really speak to you. Um, Sometimes you'll meet someone and they really feel like a long lost friend. Um, that's a really remarkable experience. And I think that is, your intuition speaking to you. They are recognizing something in this person that vibrates, resonates at the same level where you are. Um, and similarly, you can take a dislike to someone. Sometimes somebody that, for all intents and purposes, you should like a lot. Maybe you have a lot in common. Maybe you are very similar in your backgrounds, or um, maybe someone has said, "Hey, you should meet this person. You would really like them." Um, and then you do meet them, and you're like, "Wow, I really don't like this person. I don't feel good about this person." Um, those are feelings you might want to pay attention to. That first impression is frequently um, a real one. It's telling you, your body and your deep self is telling you something that you might want to pay attention to. That's not the same thing as a snap impression, right? Snap impression might be if you look at someone and you see what clothes they're wearing, or you see what car they're driving or whatever, and um, you've made your mind up about what kind of person that is and what they're going to say and how they're going to act, and those are notoriously poor judgment, right? That's coming from up here. That's our trying to piece together what's happening. It isn't something deep.
And we know the difference. We all know the difference. It's a feeling rather than um, a thought that you've put together. So listen. Listen to those feelings you might have. For some people, it's a voice, right? Um, I was at, I went to Quaker school, Friends School, when I was young, and we used to go to meeting, and they spoke about this small, still voice that we listen for in the silence, in the quiet space. And for some of us, it does sound like a voice, very quiet and very small. Um, the trick is to differentiate that from the big voices in your head, right? Your mind, your emotions, um, those things that the noise, right? That's often just chattering around in our brains. Um, it's impossible to turn that noise off, right? That noise is helpful and useful, not all the time, but many, most of our day, we need that. So we don't want to stop it, but we want to be able to tell the difference between general chatter and that um, that bit of information, that little wisdom that bubbles up from within. And with anything, the only way to know this is to experience it, to uh, be in communication with the self through meditation, through um, you know getting some knowledge of your interior landscape, right? Tending your garden within. Um, you get to know, just like in a garden when you first start, um, everything looks very confusing. Everything looks the same, right? And my husband never, now, don't get me wrong, this could be also because he doesn't want to do the work, but he says he can't tell the difference. And I can understand that. When you first look at a garden, it all looks the same. It's only by spending some time there that you understand, okay, well, this plant has this type of leaf, but this other plant has a different type of leaf. This is a good bug. This is a bad bug. Um, these are weeds and these are flowers. So spend some time there. Get to know your garden, and understand how that self is communicating with you, so that uh, when it's speaking, you can understand and you can hear. Moving then, fingers and toes, hands and feet, coming up to a seat. We'll bring hands together for a deep breath in and out. Thank you for taking some time this morning, for sharing yoga with me. I hope that you have a very good Wednesday. Namaste. Thank you. 5 minutes of meditation. Sitting up comfortably, more or less. uh, that relaxed awareness, eyes shut, focusing on the breath, the sensations in the body,
but not getting too, focused on any one thing. And breathe.
Okay, we're back. So there's a little yoga and meditation for your day. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will be back tomorrow for Christmas Eve, Christmas Eve morning yoga. All right, have a great day.